Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to the On Run podcast. Just a quick reminder before we jump to our guest. We are on the socials. We are on TikTok, Instagram. Very simple to find us there at ondele.run. And then, of course, you can always look for us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also YouTube. So we, again, can be found just simply by doing Ondele Run. And we hope that you find this enjoyable and also of value to you on your running career. And so with all those kind of put to the side for a little bit, Abe, I am excited to have this conversation tonight with our guest. And I know you have a little bit of intro for us. So why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest today?
Yeah, I'm excited too. It's a little bit of a different guest. She's not a competitor, but she's worked with many athletes in her career. Started off as a dietitian, now been a licensed therapist for 18 years. This is Lindsay Calvario.
Well, hello, Lindsay. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Well, we want to say thank you so much for taking some time to join us here on the podcast. And I am thrilled to be able to have this conversation. It's been something that I've been looking forward to for a while, and also thinking about how or who we could reach out to have this sort of discussion. So with you having been in the field of therapy for the past 18 years, and everything you've worked with a lot of different runners, and you have a passion for this sport. You have a passion because, of course, you know what it takes in the sport, but also you have your son. He's a runner. He won cross country, was a 4A, right, for middle school.
Yeah, 4A.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I've got to ask. I know how it felt for me, but how did it feel for you having your son win
Oh,
that and everything?
it was one of the most proud moments for him that we felt. I think I don't tear much, but after that race I definitely did. He something he's wanted and went for, and it was just really great to see him be able to have that accomplishment. I also have a daughter who runs too.
Okay.
But it definitely, Jacob had that was just being at the award ceremony too. It was so neat how they, celebrate the athletes. So yeah,
Sure.
really
Yeah,
great.
no, that is a great moment to be able to experience as a parent, and everything. So you mentioned your daughter. So is your daughter younger than Jacob?
She's twin.
Oh, she's a twin. Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So it's
she.
twins. Go ahead.
Jacob is 100% full into the running, and
Okay.
my daughter, she's tapping into it and kind of is a little more balanced than an athlete. She's doing gymnastics right now, but she'll do
Okay.
and then plans to give running a shot in high school. So she did very well this season too. So, but they
Oh,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's awesome.
We'll have a sixth
Yeah.
grader come in next year. So yeah, we're
There you go. There you go. And so, and Jacob will be moving into high school,
yes,
right next year as a
yeah.
freshman. So,
Mhm.
yeah, which it's a little bit different, but I'm confident that he'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, so Lindsay, you of course are here with us today, and then also you will be at the Northern Illinois Elite Camp for runners happening in June. So that's going to be a great experience and everything. And so, what I'd like to kind of at least start off with, before we kind of get to some questions that Abe has, is why do you have such a passion, love for the sport of running, cross country, track and field? Where did that come from?
Uh, I was a runner myself, and I my I, it was when I look back to my high school years, it was I feel like running it's just such a special sport in terms of um, the bonds that you make with your teammates and coaches. It's such um, a unique sport in that sense of how those like relationships develop, even if you're not friends with really them outside of the sport. I mean, when you're all, there together each
Right.
day. So I ran in college, just my
Okay.
first couple of years, and so then I kind of got out of it, and now it's been really exciting to, um, have my kids, especially Jacob, being so passionate about it, and also navigating, that, th as a parent too,
Yeah.
but I I think running is it's always been a part of my life ever since, 8th grade, and,
Okay.
um, it's a kind of a part of my family's life too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so running is a part of the rhythm of the life,
Yeah.
for you and your family. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And so, Abe, I know you had a few questions there. Why don't you go ahead and just start us off with your first question there?
Yeah. So one thing I was wondering is, running in high school and college and working with some athletes as a therapist, what do you think is like the most common problem you see a lot of runners face? And what is some advice maybe you would give to them to get through it?
Y I think I could answer this more generally, or also to my, kinda specific, area of expertise. Um I'd say with all the runners that I've worked with, I think the most common is, um, the how intense the sport can get, and finding, um, an identity outside of that, and sort of losing starting to lose their, like, it become more pressure versus, um, that passion and that process that they enjoy. Um, I do work with, um, a lot of young female runners with eating disorders or disordered eating or body image struggle. So that's a big area that I work with. But even when someone comes in, with that, there's, all sorts of, you know, s- struggles with kind of family and pressure. But really, I like to help people, have just be their healthiest self all around, and not just as an athlete. So, yeah.
Did you have a follow-up question, Abe?
Yeah, I was gonna say, so sounds like a big problem is people making running like their whole identity. Like,
Yeah.
well, they get really caught up in it. So what would you say is one thing that you would tell somebody to do to help them have kind of a life outside of running?
It's hard to say one. Maybe I'll say a couple.
Yeah.
I think, having friends outside of running, I think, can be really just to get out of the environment and away from, you just laugh about different things, kind of be kind of have a little life away from the sport. I say these things with some things that I did not do when I was younger, and also some things that I've seen my son do that I admire. Um, I also think that, having goals and, outside of running, thinking about goals and even hobbies, outside of the sport, I think are really important things that can help people, to have a longer career and a happier, and more successful career.
Touching on the like having hobbies outside of, say, the sport of running, and you said having longer careers. So how have you seen somebody who maybe develops I don't know, we'll say, drawing or painting, outside of running, of course. How has that helped them in like maintaining a longer career? How have you viewed that?
I think, uh, when someone shows up at the starting line, I think I guess anytime, anything in life is out of balance, I think it affects each area. Um, and so I think just life feeling more in balance, and, um, when, for example, if you're got into art or got into, it takes that your thought process away from the, like, the results and the goal, and puts you back into it, gives you a little bit of, um kind of like you're living life, and you're, just like you're living that day at that race, and also I
Mhm.
think when we're doing hobbies that make us happy, we're smiling more. And there's even research that shows, like, if you smile, even like in a race, like you're gonna do better. And so I think just, helping you be more mentally, like, well, I would say,
Yeah.
overall. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I know I have read um, an article that was referring to
Mhm.
that sort of study of smiling when you're running.
Mhm.
It I'm not sure of all the neuroscience that goes into that, but I know it does something
Mhm.
in your brain and releases, chemicals in your body and everything.
Mhm.
So I mean that certainly is a good thing. And so with that, like with the like pressures, because developing that hobby outside of running,
Mhm.
and when somebody comes back to the sport of running and they're at a different event that creates a lot of pressure that
Mhm.
either the runner has put on themselves
Mhm.
or they feel the external pressures coming from fans or parents or
Mhm.
coaches or whatever. How or what sort of advice would you give to an athlete that feels that, to be able to walk in that pressure? Because I think sometimes
Mhm.
pressure can be good,
Yep.
but if it's too much it can break. If it's too
Mhm.
little, it's not going to cause the
Right.
you to do well or whatnot. So I just think of a guitar, because the strings need the
Mhm.
tightening to play well. If it's too loose, it's not going
Right.
to play well. If it's too tight, it's going to
Mhm.
break.
Right. Yeah, it's finding that balance.
Hmm.
I would, advice, I think a lot of athletes who get, especially what start to, take running when they start to take running more seriously, or when they realize they have talent, different personalities, especially, a lot of those personalities kind of naturally gravitate towards the sport, I find. Um, a lot of people are afraid that if they tell their coach they're going to go, they're going to, um, try a different just activity over the weekend, or if they're going to, develop new hobby, or want to take kind of, um, have a little bit of a life outside of running, that, oh, you're not going to be taking it as seriously, like and actually, what I would tell the runners that are taking this very seriously and putting all that pressure on themselves, is that usually what I've seen is that it actually helps. It actually helps you to perform better when you're not always thinking about performing. Um, I think that, people who, um, even if, and we can't control a season, right, or a race or performance, but even showing up to a team and bringing that energy, I think, to a team when you're someone who, can shoot some baskets, with your friend in the driveway, or, um, an adolescent, girl shopping with her friends at the mall on the weekend, instead of, um, journaling about running goals, all the time. There is a definite time and place and benefit for all of those things. But, I definitely would, and, like, talk about all the benefits, that those
Hmm.
things can bring, and educate coaches too, because coaches don't always, I mean, it's like, it depends. Some coaches, really value that athlete that is, perfect, right? Like, and that always doesn't lead down the road, right?
Hmm.
To that athlete's potential. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Did you have something, Abe?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what do you think? How would you determine, if you're an athlete, what's a healthy amount of stress? Because some people hear, oh, stress is good, and they're like, oh, I feel really stressed. I guess this could be good, but it isn't always. So, how, as an athlete, how could you determine what's a healthy amount and not too excessive?
Yeah. I think a healthy amount of stress does not seep into all your other areas of life. So if the state meet is coming up and you're stressed and there's pressure and there's rankings and there's all of those things, like, there's a healthy, like, kind of like an exciting anxiety, almost. But if you're in school and you can't concentrate, or you're, not wanting to do anything on the weekends, even during the day, because, you if I hang out with people that aren't runners, I'm gonna get distracted from my goal. If it starts to affect your appetite, relationships, if you find yourself kind of just not in a very good mood, those are signs that, hey, like, we're taking it a little too seriously. And I wouldn't say taking it too seriously. It's needing some skills to keep that um, keep that anxious feeling um, in a direction that can, you know help you succeed versus hold you back. Because I think anyone at the starting line of a race who's anxious, I mean, well, everyone's anxious, I should say. But if you are um, so anxious to where all you're thinking about is that goal at the end, like, I better win, or I better get top 25, right? You're not thinking of, like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this grind. I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to, I want to be proud of whatever effort I give today. I think there's a very big difference in how your overall happiness as a runner um, will turn out.
So, talking about the mindset for a moment. So, of course, somebody who's running may be experiencing some pain as they're running and everything. And so, has there been anything that you have told runners that you've worked with that, like, maybe creating a mantra or something that they say to themselves in the midst of the run, that to focus on instead of the pain, or you're just like, just feel the pain?
I think it depends on the personality, of who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Um, I think, what I've seen with the runners that I've worked with, and personally in my life too, um, I think runners who do succeed to I mean, at the higher level, have a less of a freak out when you start to feel that pain and discomfort.
Mhm.
Um, kind of embrace it versus, um, oh my gosh, like, what is, I'm dying, like, I can't finish this. Um, once you get into it, it's right. Mantras can help. I think people learn, like, what goes on in their brains. For some people might say, like, it's happening again, or, I'm dying. And, I challenge my clients in all areas of I'm working with, like, okay, um, let's take a look at, like, the truth here,
Mhm.
um, how much is what you're saying, what data do we have, right?
Mm.
Um, if you're breathing, right? There's runners around you, and they are all probably sounding just as tired as you. Um, you've done this before. So really, I think either it works for some people to, I'm going to welcome this and embrace it and challenge it and go with it.
Mhm.
Um, or to kind of get them back to the truth. Like, no, I'm just tired. I'm just feeling the burn. This is supposed to happen.
Mm.
Uh, and, the end result, right? It's We can only control what we can control. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that's good because, sometimes it does depend on the individual and that
Yeah.
their personality and, how they process things and how they approach, the different races and
Right.
whatnot. Because I find sometimes it might be human nature that we want, like, the answer, and
Uh-huh.
we want this fix, and we know we're gonna go, and
Yeah.
a lot of times it's like figuring it out.
Yeah. And sometimes it's even, I mean, sometimes people need, like, a distraction, or even like a movement they do, or something that just gets them out of their head.
Hmm.
Like, little things like snapping a finger or something. Depends whatever kind of sparks that, kind of lights up that person.
Sure.
Um, I mean, I even see, and I really try, and I know my son is gonna watch this and and be like, "Mom, you don't do those things. I try not to be therapist, at home. So you learn in school, not every
Yeah.
therapist." But I will say with that even seeing my two kids run at the same time and how they both approach the sport and what is going to motivate and work for my son is going to be very different than what is gonna
Right.
encourage and make my daughter enjoy the sport. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. It's in, the sport, it can be very taxing mentally. Um, and because it can be taxing mentally, I know that there are some athletes who may experience burnout. And
Yeah.
so, in your view, or maybe what you've experienced, like, how, I guess A would be, how does somebody recognize that they're on, maybe on the verge of burnout, or they're they're right there at burnout,
Hmm.
and then maybe some helpful tools or exercises or something that might be able to help them kind of, maybe fall in love with the sport again, or just kind of easing them their
Yeah.
way back to feeling normal, for them.
Hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, I've seen a lot of runners in the community and my own clients at that place, especially in the clinical setting. I think we talk about like there's emotional burnout, there's mental burnout, there's physical burnout. I think, and they all have different. We're going to see different things in all areas of those, and I think you tend to burn out in one area, and then it leads to a burnout in the other area. So, like overtraining and over for that individual person, that sometimes we find like low ferritin levels, for example. um so we know, okay, that's a sign of burnout, but what that typically leads to is lesser performances and frustration, and so being like angry at oneself
Mm,
and frustrating, like blaming. When you start to blame yourself, you're not there.
mm,
You're not present. And I think that's when we start to go into like the actual mental health aspects of people might be experiencing like anxiety, depression, all different types of things. So I think that when you start to be stressed more often than you're enjoying the sport, or if you're dreading, like all of
mm,
a sudden like dreading racing, or um like, ugh, I don't want to do that, like a shift in attitude
sure.
toward. I feel like that's a sign of burnout. But a lot of times I find it, I mean, unfortunately, I think the emotional burnout starts to happen first, but it's not
Mm,
seen. And someone fights through that. And then we
yeah.
start seeing the physical things come. And then you know, I mean, that's why we actually, I mean, the research shows, and I don't, this is just in general athletics. I think that, especially with girls, a lot of runners stop, even very talented runners, by the time they're freshman, sophomore, sometimes even before then, because of the frustration, over,
Mm,
um, maybe there are some like iron problems going on at that time.
mm,
Bodies are changing, and it takes some patience, with that. And so, yeah, I think patience is like one thing I would really emphasize, to prevent burnout. This is a hard sport. There's not any other sport I think where you literally people fall over at the end and you're tripling over, falling over people. Um, and so, it's
yeah.
doing that for year after year after year. You have to know where I guess keep it fun. Keep it fun, I think is so important, and it's hard because the training does have it's hard. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, trying to keep it light on some days, let those easy days be easy when they're supposed to be. Um,
Hmm.
like I find that some of my more elite clients will um like not run with their team at all. Like will run all their runs on their own, whereas some of those recovery runs like that can be like an emotional um protective measure to keep that athlete as like part of a team and not just so focused individually that they lose that piece of the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. You had a question, Abe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, for a second, you mentioned, some of our elite runners. What would you say, like, is one common mindset or one maybe tool that you think most elite runners share that maybe makes them elite?
Gosh, these asking one questions are very hard.
So you can get multiple answers.
I think I mean obviously there's genetics and there's all that stuff too,
Mhm,
but I do think that like enjoying the challenge, I
mhm,
think, and like being excited for that and not afraid of it, not afraid to push um I want to see how far my body can go. Like I think that's a very because those athletes tend to not panic as much when that discomfort comes when they then can keep going and they're willing to push it further. Whereas, I mean, I think there's some athletes likely could be more elite, but are afraid to push, beyond that a little bit.
Mm.
So I think being willing to just having that competitive drive is one thing. Um, I think that is being that's like really number one, and I think then also enjoying the grind. I truly think, um, yeah,
It seems as though the elites athletes or runners seem to not be afraid to push the boundaries on what their body can do. Do you, in your view, do you think that is something that can be learned, like learned to overcome that fear and like really be like, yeah, I want to do that, but I'm scared. So how do I overcome that fear?
yeah. I think it you know what? Every runner has different goals,
Hmm.
and I always want to respect like the what someone wants out of running. So
Right.
if someone wants that, I definitely think that they can work through that if they have a coach that is really willing to work with them individually, on that, and even maybe getting extra help, therapeutically to work through those and develop different, like how to change your thought process like during a race and have some statements that you naturally respond to in a different way, and I think that you practice it in workouts too and you realize like, hey, look what you just did. There's certain workouts, and I mean I'm not a coach, but that you could definitely give an athlete and be like, look what you just did, or look who you just ran with. I think those moments, having those moments of like, wow, like i'm not I'm not just working towards being good. I'm actually good. I think the confidence is a huge thing too. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's good. We I know that there's different runners, at different stages that do listen to this, and so I think one of those things is like helping. We want to be able to help them run by motivating or whatnot and those kind of things. And so, um, as far as like, when a well, I don't know. Before I ask this, Abe, do you have any questions?
Yeah, actually, there's one thing I was wanting to ask. So recently, my coach has implemented like visualization the day before a race. So what is it? First of all, like, would you recommend that for athletes? And what is something that you think makes it so effective? If so,
I absolutely. I think one of the reasons I'm probably on this podcast is because I'm going to be speaking at that camp, and um which Coach Thorpe has told me he's built it kind of modeling a camp that I went to when I was an athlete, and my personal coach she had developed the camp, and that was one of the biggest things that I was taught from very, very early on. And I think um I I I mean, I think it works for a lot of different reasons. I think we can relax. I think it can relax your like nervous system. Yeah. Knowing like, okay, like I've seen it. Like I've I've seen it. I've got it. And I don't. I mean, to be honest, I'm not. I don't know the exact neuroscience behind it. But the more you visualize something, and I think it's even just like confidence in anything you do. The more you think you can do it, the more you imagine doing it, um, the more likely you are to do it. I think visualization also it kind of like puts you in the race, but in a more relaxed state, so that you're accomplishing the goal like without being in the stress of the race. So I think it just also gets you confident, excited, just from a mental standpoint. Like
Yeah.
I've seen myself do this. And I know a lot of runners implement that. Same with like meditation and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I may have heard this on a podcast some time ago, but because they were talking about like visualizing it, and how uh, the way our brain works when we're visualizing that, it can't tell if it's our brain doesn't tell if it's real or not. And so when you're like visualizing it, it's like, oh, like you were saying, the brain is saying, we've seen this before. We've been here before. So let's go.
Right. And that's like when you get into that spot where you're in the pain and you don't like, can I go? You've seen yourself do it, at that point. So, yeah. And does your race always go exactly how you visualized it?
Yeah. No.
But there's research, but it still can help. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And and thank you for asking that, Abe. I know that was, I know that's something that, team practices and everything. And I certainly believe in how that can help athletes, not just in running, but in a lot of other sports as well. So when, my question was just going to be, when an athlete is stepping to the line, right? Like they're stepping to the line. Maybe they are at a high stakes race, state, sectionals, national race, whatever it may be. Um, uh, are there ways? Are there ways for that athlete to be able to regulate or calm their nervous system in that moment? Because their nervous system could be like going haywire, and they have all kinds of different feelings or different things, because at least from what I've read, our emotions hit first before our thoughts. And so it's learning about like recognizing it, and how do we, yeah. So are there tips, or are there ways that athletes can maybe calm their nervous system if they recognize it when they're stepping at the line?
Yeah. I mean, there's some physical things that you can do, I mean, like breathing and, I mean, for some people, there's a spirituality, focus that they can implement to feel more grounded. I think this is also when you practice before the race, things that, that you're going to tell yourself, you're going to have that dialogue in your head, I trust my training. I think that's, just kind of get to before the panic comes in, I trust my training is a big one. I, um, I'm going to control, I'm going to focus on my race. I think is one, because that when you're worried about everyone else, you're so anxious because you can't control, you can't control that.
Right.
So just focusing on your my race plan, I'm trusting that, and then using this. I mean, for some people, even like splashing, like if you have a cold water bottle, like putting cold water in your face, just things that kind of like can like lower the heart rate and relax you. And I think everyone the moment before that gun goes off, there's um different things that are going to work.
Right.
A lot of people, um, it's for some people it's spirituality, prayer, just turning the end result over, right? It's like
Yeah.
I trust I'm gonna focusing on the effort, like I said in the beginning, like
Hmm.
I'm excited to give this effort. And I think that, and even smiling could help too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Um, and so, there's so many different topics that I want to be able to touch on. One, though, I think it is important is if you could say anything
Yeah.
to parents who have athletes, uh, you know, those maybe some that are elite, what we would consider elite in running, down to those who are maybe they're not there yet, and everything. So as far as like pressures from parents uh or what would you say, I guess, how can a parent best support their athletes
Yeah.
in this sport of running?
Yeah, this is, I mean, I was gonna bring this up whether you asked me or not. I think it's so important. And it's gonna be, I'm gonna be honest right here that I'm a therapist I support a lot of parents of elite runners or just runners in general. And I'm also a parent of a runner that is quite an elite runner. And um, I don't always do the right things, so this is hard. Harder,
Yeah.
easier said than done.
Yep.
But I would say, uh, keep it light. Keep it light at home. Running is so it's in their brains at practice. They're doing these workouts. They're setting their goals. They're themselves. I mean, thinking about the races, knowing their competitors, knowing this, and um, making home and a space for home,
Mm.
and I think, and it is definitely hard, and I've experienced this myself too, when you've been an athlete, especially when you see your child doing something great, right? And can make a very simple, easy, but to make, but um takes a while to correct mistake of talking about it all the time.
Mm.
Being so excited and talking about their goals and their training and their, this, that. Do they have, I think, and then, I also would tell parents, you don't have to be perfect, right? Like
Hmm.
you're gonna not, we're human, and we always can go back to our child and say, okay, yeah, like, I was too much. I'm working on this. And I think it depends the relationship with the child too. Like my husband, who was a college runner too,
Hmm.
has a very different relationship to running with like my kids than I do as kind of the mother figure, whatever, I think. So I just leave it to the coach. And some coaches are parents, and that's another dynamic. Um,
Hmm.
but I think, really try to just be there for the athlete. Don't focus too much on, I mean, try to help your runner, also like encourage fun outside of the sport, encourage talking about other things like, future and goals and school and different strengths that they have.
Yeah.
Uh, but and when they want to come and talk about running, you can welcome that, right?
Yeah.
But it just not to be, if it gets, when we talk about burnout, um, the last thing we want as a parent is to see our child who has a whole lot of talent and potential, um, that is already feeling so much pressure, feel more pressure, and sometimes we do that, we don't even know we're doing it.
Yeah.
I did when my son was in 5th grade, I will admit I saw him like win a race. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Start talking about it, and I soon learned that was not the kids want to be. You want to make sure, even just that this is just a general, even outside of running, that you know we love our kids for who they are, not what they do.
Right.
No matter what
Yep.
happens, no matter if they can ever run again or they get last place in the race, they attempt to get first place, right? Um,
Yeah.
they're still them, and I think really, I will say lastly, telling, also making sure your child knows, and that there are moments where you can fit this in, that that they're not like you are someone who runs.
Mhm.
You're not a runner. Like you're a runner, but like I told my you're Jacob,
Yeah.
who is right, who enjoys basketball and plays with your friends and is wants to do this one day, and these are, you think you have a sense of humor, um and you're really good at running and you love running, right?
Yeah.
So, we want to try to separate those two. Like
Yep.
you could quit. And sometimes, if you push it too far, they'll be like, I'm going to quit. And it's like, you can, that's okay. And
Right.
they don't really want to, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really good. The recognizing that we're human, and sometimes we make
Yeah.
mistakes. Because there have been times where I've said, "Okay, we're not going to talk about running at the table, at the dinner
Oh
table,"
my gosh. Yep.
and we do that, but
Yeah.
then like a few weeks later, I find myself we're talking about running at the dinner table, and
Oh
so
my
then I was
gosh.
like, I have to apologize for that. But
It's hard because I mean, races are so exciting and their
yeah.
goals are so big, and some of us have either were in a different sport when we were younger, and we're really into that, or we're into the sport and like, wow, like I I wasn't that, and so it's easy to get excited about it, and that excitement can be very easily misinterpreted,
Mhm.
just naturally with, oh, they expect this, I better do this, or also they want to own it, and running gets to, and I want to keep working on this with, as a parent too, like my son, my daughter's running, whatever happens, like that's their thing.
Mhm.
That's that's not mine. Yeah, like I have maybe gave them some genes. My husband gave him some genes, but there's a lot more that goes into that daily grind,
Right.
that those genes, and so you know running gets to be, I really, every time, I swear every day almost, my kids go to bed. But right now only my son is running, but my daughter will be soon. Oh, I wish I did do that, or I wish I did
Yeah.
do.
Right.
But you just keep showing up and trying to be better. And what I work with my clients' parents on is just, we forgive ourselves. We model forgiveness,
Mhm.
for ourselves. We model just showing up that next day and try to be our best self as a parent. And yeah, there's no parenting perfect book or anything. But
Right.
run is a hard thing, and it
Yeah.
it
It
is. We're excited, cross
That's
country.
right.
It's a festive sport. It's in the fall. It's fun, and
Yeah.
then they want to just shut down sometimes.
Yeah.
Play the
Yeah.
video.
No,
You know?
that's right. Yes, play the video games. Well, like I said, there's so many other things that I would love to be able to jump into, but I want to be respectful of your time, of course, and everything. And just a couple of questions,
Yeah.
Lindsay, just to kind of get to
Sure.
know you, because I know some of our listeners will be at the camp and everything. And so the first question would be is that if you have an evening and you're about to watch your favorite show, what snack are you grabbing to watch that show with?
Oh gosh. I I love chocolate, so it
Okay.
probably would be, some type of chocolate candy, or ice cream, chocolate covered strawberries, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Okay. The chocolate it is then. All right. So if you're going to camp, make sure you get Lindsay some chocolate, not melted though, not melted.
I think I will be staying a day. So
Yeah, there you go. Okay. And then, so, you're out on a beautiful day, either a walk or a run, and you have your AirPods on. What music or artist are you listening to as you're out?
um, I'm definitely like an 80s
Okay.
person.
Yeah.
So I would, yeah, 80s, the way I would, the Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, all the,
Okay. Yeah.
like old stuff that I listened to when I was in middle school, I think.
Okay.
The 80s. Yeah.
All right, all right. So that's great. I know we have some '80s listeners that
Yeah.
listen. I like the '80s myself.
Yeah.
I came back from a Michael Jackson impersonation
Oh God.
concert this past weekend, so that's a whole different subject. But anyways, all right. Well, hey, Lindsay, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. We really do appreciate it, and I would love to have you on again because I know that you love talking about like the diet and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I know there's some runners who face eating unhealthy eating habits,
Yeah.
and just working through that and everything. And I would love to be able to have you back on at some
Yeah.
point.
No,
To
I would love that. I work with that daily. And also,
Yeah.
I'm a dietitian as well. So
Okay. So
yeah.
it's right there. So we will certainly look to have that in the future because I believe that's another important
Yeah.
component in the running
Right.
world. Yeah. So with that, thank you again so much for your time. And I just want to say to those who are listening, thank you so much for taking some time and sitting down and listening to this podcast. Just want to remind you, we are on Spotify for the podcast, and also Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. So it would help us out tremendously if you gave us a follow, a rate, or a comment. That would help us tremendously. And then we're also on the socials as well, at Instagram and TikTok, simply Andale.run. So thank you so much for listening. And we hope that you are accomplishing your goals, whatever you're doing this week. You're working out hard, or you're accomplishing school stuff hard. And as you're accomplishing that, I hope you hear me say, Andale, because you're doing a great job. So thank you so much. And until next time, we will talk to you later.